So in a very entertaining fight, Murat Gassiev manages to defend his IBF Cruiserweight Championship and add the WBA Cruiserweight Championship of Yunier Dorticos to his list of achievements, list of accomplishments. Scored a 12th round technical knockout. Dropped Dorticos 3 times in the last round in a fight that was pretty close up until then. Although I kind of disagree with a lot of the common response to this fight, insofar as a lot of people saying like, "Oh my God, it was a fight of the year," and this and that. I don't necessarily see it that way, simply because it seemed like it was too one way the whole way through. It was almost like it was a very great performance from Gassiev. I'm not gonna downplay that, but insofar as it being a great fight, it just to me looked like it was just too much Dorticos kind of controlling the pace and controlling the tempo of the fight in the early goings, and then Gassiev kind of slowly coming on, getting into a rhythm. Dorticos starting to tire out in the mid rounds, and then Gassiev just kind of taking over and then making it one-sided the other way, and basically the exact opposite direction, up until the point where, I mean, I'd say between like rounds 9 and the final, the drama was pretty much taken out of the fight. It was just Gassiev coming on, and you were waiting for Dorticos to just kind of give out and give in at that point. And he, to his credit, he didn't outright. He definitely showed a lot of grit, a lot of heart in trying to just fire back as best as he could. But you could just tell that he just didn't have the starch on his punches that he had in the early goings, where I think he was doing really well, kind of sticking Gassiev with the jab, putting the right hand right behind it, and backing Gassiev up. Although, Gassiev did box reasonably well on the back foot, did a pretty solid job of being able to defend relatively correctly. It's just that I thought that Dorticos was not only controlling the distance, controlling the pace in the early goings, but he was outlanding Gassiev. It's not like Gassiev was like, oh my God, like he's getting his ass kicked and he's losing these rounds like so clear and he has no chance and all that type of stuff. He was given a good go of it. It's just that you could tell that he was losing the rounds, or at least that's the way that I saw it. I mean, I'd imagine that's the way the judges kind of saw it too, considering the fact that he was just ahead of Dorticos, 105, 104 on one of the judges' scores, and 106 to 103 on the other two. But that is largely owed to the fact that he came on so strong, pretty much in the second half of the fight. Especially that at that point it became all Gassiev, to an extent. It wasn't as good of a fight as I thought the Usyk Brady's fight was. I thought that was just more competitive throughout, and there was more kind of tit for tat there. It's like almost like, oh, is Usyk gonna take over? Oh shit, Brady's still hitting him. He's still hitting him clean. It was really anybody's fight as it went into the championship rounds. Here, I didn't necessarily see that for Dorticos, unless he could just land a Hail Mary on Gassiev. You could just tell that as the rounds told on, he just didn't have as much power in his shots. And that power was the thing that was really making all the difference, especially early on, where it kind of put Gassiev on notice and kept him from being so abrupt and just, kind of dogging and attacking Dorticos the way that he did Lararchik in his last fight. But all that said, like I said, Gassiev put on a great performance. Showed a pretty kind of calm, cool, collected head, insofar as like he didn't get ahead of himself. He didn't get overly desperate. He just kind of plugged away, let things kind of play out, and he pretty much let Dorticos tire himself out a bit, and of course helped that along with the body work and the beautiful little kind of double left hooks that he would throw. Really, really clever kind of inside fighting from Gassiev. The only thing though is I'm wondering if he'll be able to pull off that same thing against Usyk, because Usyk did show, I mean, he has shown in the past, but especially in the Brady's fight, that if a fight gets heated, he can keep a high pace. He can keep a very high pace. And Brady's gassed out. I mean, you could see that Gassiev has a pretty good meter on like where his gas tank is at. He won't expend too much energy, so that he'll have a fairly good amount later on in the fight. So I think in the late rounds of a Gassiev-Usyk fight, it may get interesting. But I just get the feeling that Usyk is going to just be in too far ahead of a lead. I get the feeling that he's going to win early rounds very quick and put Gassiev in like a points hole to the extent where Gassiev is going to need a knockout in order to beat Usyk. I don't think that Gassiev is as precise or as accurate and as Brady's. Does he hit as hard or harder? I mean, it's anybody's game. I think it's about he's about level with Brady's, to be honest. Um, the body work of Gassiev may be the thing that ultimately plays the biggest factor. If he can't get those body shots off early, then I'd give him a much better shot at defeating Usyk. But overall, I just kind of favor Usyk's agility and his ability to keep up a high pace. High pace, high speed, high movement type of fight. To basically make it so that Gassiev is constantly playing catch up. Whether it's catch up in terms of being able to get Usyk in one spot in order to be able to hit him, or catch up in terms of the points and in terms of points scored, not only in the rounds but round by round, where I could see like after 7 rounds it being like 5 rounds to 2 for Usyk, and then at that point it's like Usyk really needs, Gassiev would need to really just go berserker style on him and just just completely start going for broke. Hopefully he proves me wrong. I thought that Usyk was gonna kind of do that type of thing to Brightis, and he apparently wasn't able to. So we'll really see what Gassiev has. I do think that Gassiev has started really improving. I think he's kind of proof positive of that adage about like when a fighter becomes a champion, they become a better fighter. I think he's actually holding true to that because I wasn't as impressed with the win over Lebedev. I thought he won the fight clearly, but I thought that he really should have been able to finish Lebedev off. I still think it's bullshit that Lebedev managed to keep his belt after that. The guy's a paper champion in every sense of the word. And honestly, I hope Myers Brady's goes over and knocks Lebedev's head off and takes that belt and has that belt on a real fighter, and so that would set up Brady's for the winner of Gassiev versus Usyk. Whether it's Usyk in a rematch, I think that'd be a great fight, and whether it's Gassiev and Gassiev upsets Usyk, I think it'd be a fantastic fight. Especially that style matchup, Gassiev versus Brady's. That's pure action from the opening bell. I don't know. I'm a bit more enticed by this final due to the fact that Brady's did expose Usyk's flaws a bit more, I guess, clearly than fighters have in the past. He was able to really truly exploit them as opposed to make it known to kind of a viewing audience where somebody could potentially, possibly exploit them. He actually did so in certain instances. It's just I'm not sure if Gassiev necessarily has that same level of acuity in order to be able to cut that distance down and get that timing together the same way that Brady's did. But I mean the body shots are very brutal, and hey, if you kill a body, the head will fall. Yeah, that's another adage that Gassiev may possibly hold true to. I mean, it definitely held true here with Dorticos, and it may hold true once again with Usyk. But it's good to see, man. The World Boxing Super Series from its inception seemed like it was going to be a great tournament, a great series. And, I mean, it definitely hasn't let us down. Even though there's been a couple of fights that were like, they were all right fights, but weren't earth-shattering or anything like that. These cruiserweight fights especially have been just excellent, excellent fights. This fight, even though I kind of said earlier that it wasn't, the greatest of fight. Like, to me, I don't think this would be necessarily a candidate for fight of the year. Performance of the year, sure. For Gassiev, he definitely pulled off a great one. Kind of a come from behind type win, where it's like he was down. He appeared down early, and came roaring back and stopped his guy in the very last round. But it just kind of lacked the two-way action for me. There wasn't enough like real heat from Gassiev where you thought like, oh, Dorticos is about to be in trouble, and then there wasn't enough. That was in the early goings, and then there wasn't enough fire back from Dorticos where you thought like, oh shit, like hey, if he catches Gassiev, he may be able to turn it right back around. I just never got that sense from this fight. But let's see if Gassiev versus Usyk proves to trump all the ones that have come before. It's a great fight, unifying at the very least a version of all 4 titles. Really, truly, the winner should be the undisputed champion. Lebedev is not a champion. Period. Point blank. The guy is not a fucking champion. He's a paper champ in every sense of the word. Every sense of the word. But great tournament. The super middleweights haven't quite matched the level of the cruiserweights yet. But the semifinals are coming up in the super middleweights, and I think those fights are going to be really solid. And I'm really looking forward to Groves versus Eubank especially. I think that's a great fight, and the finals of that will be excellent as well, I'm sure. And I'm hoping these tournaments continue. Richard Schaefer's done a fantastic job of it. Him and whoever else happens to be involved with it, doing a great job. Great job. Love that they're showing it on YouTube and all that. And I hope they continue it with a couple more weight classes in the future. Hopefully, for the next one, I mean they said that somewhere between like 118 and 130 may be one of the weight classes they choose, and then who knows, maybe like 154. I think 150, like say like 154 and 126, I think would be really good choices, or maybe 122 and 154, 122 and 160 or 140. I mean 140 is kind of a wide open division now. I think it would be ripe for this type of tournament stature or tournament format. That's the word I was trying to think of. In order to truly crown, like kind of the next guy or the next star, the next true man of a particular division. Considering the fact that the divisions that I mentioned have been somewhat in flux, and especially at 126, where it's like you have a lot of kind of big name fighters and very quality fighters, very high quality fighters, but they've largely just been kind of fighting, fringe contenders, and not even necessarily their mandatories, but, fringe contenders and not necessarily even like the best of contenders, and not each other as well. So, been letting us down a little bit. But, hey, it remains to be seen. I mean, I think it would definitely help in the cases of Gary Russell and Lee Selby, who both haven't necessarily been lighting the world on fire. Leo Santa Cruz as well. Although I guess at the very least he's been a bit more active than those two. But we'll see. We'll see what remains to be seen. Great win for Gassiev. Dorticos goes back to the drum board. Hey, shit, maybe even Dorticos can get a shot at Denis Lebedev. I think I'd like his chances against him too. And maybe Lebedev would fancy it as being, hey, maybe I'll be able to take this guy out. He just got knocked out, got exposed, and maybe I'll be able to kind of get him ripe for the picking. Get a big name opponent ripe for the picking and be able to sell that nicely. But I don't know. He's probably going to bide his time himself to try and get the winner of the tournament, which is bullshit. But, so it goes. Especially if it's Gassiev, because it was a split decision, quote unquote. Yeah, there was nothing. There's no hairs to split about that decision as far as I'm concerned. Gassiev won that fight. And Gassiev won this fight. Let's see if Gassiev continues his winning ways. But that's all for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.